I'm going to turn this into a fresh, commentary-driven script you can use on YouTube. The goal is a creator's voice, insightful, opinionated, and built on ideas beyond the surface. Let's dive in and unpack what Toyota's latest US investment means, not as a press release, but as a signal about the auto industry's trajectory, labor dynamics, and geopolitics of manufacturing. Every great business move has a spine to it. For Toyota, this $1 billion push across 2 US plants isn't just about filling slots on a spreadsheet. It's a statement about where they want to sell, and more importantly, where they want to build. The Georgetown, Kentucky, plant will get $800 million to boost Camry and RAV4 output. That's a signal that demand for reliable, mainstream models remains robust enough to justify expanding capacity in a plant that's been a backbone for Toyota's US volume. Meanwhile, $200 million at the Princeton, Indiana, site is aimed at the Grand Highlander, a newer, higher-margin SUV that represents Toyota's attempt to compete in a slightly more premium space within the family SUV segment. Personally, I think the move tells a few layered stories. First, Toyota appears to be betting on demand resilience in the US market, especially for staples like the Camry and the RAV4. What makes this really interesting is that these aren't the flashy, high-margin electric bets you hear about in headlines. This is about core, durable volume, the kind of products that pay the bills and stabilize margins in a cyclical industry. If you take a step back and think about it, this is a bet on the US as a consistent, large market where factories can run at scale with relatively predictable output. From my perspective, the strategic timing is telling. Toyota originally hinted at investing up to $10 billion in US plants through 2030. In a world where tariffs, supply chain fragility, and geopolitical friction keep incoming costs in flux, anchoring production stateside reduces exposure to those shocks. It also aligns with a broader trend, car makers attempting to build where they sell as a hedge against policy shifts and currency volatility. What many people don't realize is that the economic calculus isn't just about labor costs, but about stability, logistics, and the ability to offer faster, cheaper shipments to dealers and customers across the country. Another thread here is labor and supplier ecosystems. Increasing US production typically supports thousands of jobs, yes, but it also reinforces supplier networks, maintenance ecosystems, and training pipelines for workers. Toyota Chair Akio Toyoda's focus on jobs in the US isn't mere optics. It's a strategic investment in a domestic ecosystem that can sustain high-volume production with quality control standards the brand is known for. This raises a deeper question. As automakers push toward electrification and new platforms, how much of the traditional mass-market volume will remain in conventional ICE or hybrid configurations? The answer likely involves a hybrid strategy, keeping core models in high-volume plants while shifting some capacity to EV-specific lines elsewhere. What this really suggests is a broader trend. The US is becoming a critical hub not just for assembly, but for the end-to-end manufacturing and assembly of cross-continental supply chains. Expanding in Kentucky and Indiana sends a message to investors. The US market is still a primary engine for global automakers, and proximity to customers matters for cost, speed, and competitiveness. It also signals a potential countermovement to protectionist narratives by showing that manufacturing can stay domestic with the right incentives and regulatory clarity. A detail I find fascinating is the balance Toyota is striking between volume and model mix. The Camry and RAV4 are bread-and-butter vehicles with broad appeal, while the Grand Highlander sits in a more premium, larger SUV niche. By scaling both plants to support these lines, Toyota hedges against market shifts. If one segment cools, the other might still carry growth. It's also a subtle nod to consumer preference trends. Durable, reliable family cars still move the needle, but there's rising demand for roomy, flexible SUVs that can underpin lifestyle marketing and family budgets. On the policy side, this comes amid ongoing tariff and trade frictions that have cost automakers billions in external costs. Toyota's past caution about tariffs highlights how policy uncertainty can influence strategic planning. The ripple effects aren't just about price, they shape capacity choices, investment horizons, and even product portfolios. In my opinion, this kind of domestic investment acts as a form of policy insurance, reducing exposure to tariff volatility by hardening the domestic production base. Let's zoom out to the big picture implications. If Toyota and other automakers double down on US manufacturing, what do we see? A possible shift in where innovation lands. The obvious bets tend to be on electrification and advanced manufacturing tech, but the real value is in creating sustainable, scalable production models that can adapt to changing demand without erasing profitability. This kind of investment also supports regional economic resilience, which politicians and communities care about deeply. And for consumers, it could translate into steadier vehicle availability, more competitive pricing over time, and a clearer message that American plants aren't just for the moment but for the long haul. Finally, a broader takeaway. These moves are less about one company's Q4 numbers and more about the auto industry recalibrating around the reality that the US market remains central to global strategy. If you've been waiting for a dramatic pivot into full-scale EV motherships, this is a reminder that the path is iterative. It's about layering on capacity where it makes sense, refining product mixes, and balancing near-term profits with longer-term resilience. So what should you watch next? Keep an eye on production outputs and how the plants perform with increased throughput. Any early bottlenecks or efficiency gains will tell us how well Toyota manages scale. Watch supplier disclosures and local hiring data around Georgetown and Princeton. That'll reveal how deeply this investment ripples through the regional economy. Listen for any new guidance on EV or hybrid allocations. If the Grand Highlander expansion is a signal, we might see more cross-platform synergies in the US lineup. To close, I'll leave you with this thought: these investments aren't just about filling plants. They're a commentary on the auto industry's dare to stay rooted in a place, while evolving with technology, policy, and consumer appetite. If I had to forecast, I'd say we'll see more build where you sell plays, a more nuanced approach to electrification, and a continued human-centered focus on the communities that keep these factories humming. What's your take on this balance between volume, regional manufacturing, and the shift toward electrification? Do you think more automakers will lean into domestic capacity like this, or will we see a reshaping of global supply chains toward more regional blocks? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button and subscribe for more deep dives like this.